Sometimes the people who contribute the least are the loudest about what others don't bring. My name is Jacob Marshall. Everyone calls me Jake. I'm 28 years old. And this is the story of the family dinner when my aunt said I didn't bring anything, and my grandpa finally set the record straight. My mom died when I was 19. Cancer, quick and brutal. After she passed, her sister Karen sort of appointed herself the matriarch of our family. She organized the gatherings, made the decisions, and never missed an opportunity to remind everyone of her successful children, my cousins Derek and Stephanie, both lawyers, both married, both living in expensive suburbs. And then there was me, a paramedic making $42,000 a year, living alone, driving a 10-year-old truck. In Karen's eyes, I was the family disappointment. Grandpa Tom is 84, a Korean War vet who's lived alone since Grandma died 5 years ago. He's stubborn, independent, refuses to move into assisted living despite everyone's suggestions. Everyone except me. I understood why he wanted to stay in the house he'd shared with Grandma for 50 years. So I helped him. 3 times a week I'd stop by after my shift, sometimes at midnight, sometimes at dawn, depending on when I worked. I'd fix things that broke, mow the lawn, help with groceries, make sure he was taking his medications. Mostly I just sat with him. We'd watch old westerns, and he'd tell me stories about Korea, about Grandma, about building his life after the war. It wasn't charity, it was family. And honestly, those hours with Grandpa were the best part of my week. The family dinner happened last Sunday, Thanksgiving. Karen hosted at her place in Birmingham, a massive house that screamed money. All the family was there. Grandpa, my dad, Karen's husband, Derek and Stephanie with their spouses, a few other relatives. I came straight from a 24-hour shift, exhausted, still in my work pants and a clean t-shirt. I'd brought what I could afford, a store-bought pumpkin pie and a 6-pack of beer. Karen met me at the door, her eyes sweeping over me with barely disguised disapproval. "Jake, you made it. Did you bring anything?" I held up the pie and beer. "Yeah, I brought—" "Oh," her tone made it clear it wasn't enough. "Well, we have plenty of food anyway. Come in." Dinner was the usual performance. Karen's dining room looked like a magazine spread, fancy china, elaborate centerpieces, food catered from some expensive place. Derek talked about his latest case. Stephanie showed off pictures of her new house. Everyone congratulated them, praised them, validated their success. I sat quietly, eating turkey and trying to be invisible. Then Karen tapped her wine glass, standing up like she was giving a toast. "I just want to say how grateful I am to have such a wonderful family. Derek, Stephanie, you've both made us so proud with everything you've accomplished. And Tom," she smiled at Grandpa, "we're so blessed to still have you with us." She sat down, and I thought that was it. But then she added, almost as an afterthought, "Of course, not everyone contributes equally to family. Some people just show up." She glanced at me. The implication was clear. Derek smirked. Stephanie looked uncomfortable. Dad stared at his plate. I felt my face burning but said nothing. What could I say? Then Grandpa's fork clattered onto his plate. The sound was sharp in the suddenly quiet room. "Karen?" His voice was hard. "What did you just say?" "I didn't mean anything by it, Dad. You were just, what, insulting your nephew?" "I wasn't insulting anyone. I just think it's worth acknowledging that some people contribute more to family than others." Grandpa pushed his chair back and stood up. At 84, he still had that military bearing, that presence that commanded attention. "You want to talk about who contributes to this family? Let's talk about it." "Dad, this isn't necessary." "When's the last time you visited me, Karen?" She hesitated. "I was there for your birthday. 4 months ago. For 2 hours." "When's the last time Derek visited, Stephanie?" Silence. "I'll tell you who visits me," Grandpa continued. "Jake, 3 times a week, sometimes more. He comes after working 24-hour shifts, saving people's lives. He's tired, probably hasn't slept, but he stops by anyway." "Dad, that's wonderful, but I'm not finished. Last month, my furnace broke. Middle of the night, temperature dropping. Who do you think came over at 2 a.m. to fix it? Not Derek the lawyer. Not Stephanie with her fancy house. Jake. He left work early, bought parts with money he probably couldn't spare, and fixed it himself." I stared at my plate, embarrassed by the attention. "When I had that fall in July and spent 3 days in the hospital, who do you think was there? Jake slept in a chair in my room for 2 nights because he didn't want me to be alone. Where were you, Karen?" "You sent flowers." Karen's face was red. "I had work. We all have work." "That's not an excuse." Grandpa's voice softened slightly. Jake drives me to every doctor's appointment. He organized my medications when I kept forgetting them. He fixed my porch steps, replaces my air filters, helps me with bills I don't understand anymore. He looked directly at Karen. Last week, I told Jake I wanted to update my will. He tried to talk me out of it, said I didn't need to worry about that stuff. But I insisted. Want to know what I'm leaving him? The room was completely silent. This house. The house your mother and I built our life in. Because Jake is the only one who's shown it and me any real respect. He's the only one who visits not out of obligation, but because he actually cares. Dad, that's not fair, Karen started. What's not fair? Grandpa said, his voice like steel. Is you standing in your expensive house. After cooking nothing, you catered this whole meal and having the audacity to say Jake doesn't contribute. That boy contributes more to this family in a week than you have in 5 years. He turned to me. Jake, I'm sorry she made you feel small. You're worth 10 of anyone else at this table, and I won't sit here and listen to anyone suggest otherwise. He sat back down heavily, breathing hard. I was afraid he'd overexerted himself, but when I reached over to check on him, he just squeezed my hand. The dinner continued in awkward silence. Karen kept trying to redirect conversation, but the damage was done. Derek and Stephanie barely looked at me, whether from shame or resentment, I couldn't tell. After dinner, as I was leaving, Grandpa walked me to my truck. I meant every word in there, he said. You're getting the house. It's already in the will. I wanted them to know. Grandpa, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Jake, you think you're the one helping me? These last 5 years, since your grandmother passed, you've given me a reason to stay alive. Those visits, those hours watching TV, fixing things together, that's what keeps me going. You saved my life more than you know. I hugged him. This tough old veteran who rarely showed emotion, and felt him shake with tears he'd held back during dinner. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, son. Now get home and get some sleep. You've got another shift tomorrow. I drove home thinking about Karen's words that I didn't bring anything. She measured contribution in career success, in money, in status symbols, but Grandpa measured it differently. In time spent, in showing up, in being present for the people who need you. My name is Jacob Marshall. I'm 28 years old, a paramedic who makes less than my lawyer cousins spend on their car payments. At family dinner, my aunt said I didn't bring anything. But my grandpa corrected her. He showed everyone that I'd been bringing something all along, just not something that could be displayed on a fancy table or bragged about to friends. I'd been bringing time, consistency, love, and presence. I'd been showing up. Not for recognition, not for inheritance, just because that's what family does. And in the end, that was worth more than any casserole or career accomplishment could ever be. Sometimes the people who contribute the most make the least noise about it. And sometimes it takes someone like Grandpa, someone who's lived long enough, to know the difference between performance and presence to make everyone else see it too.